in the similar vein. An inspection that was conducted by a team from the Central Bank of the Gambia and the Gambia Armed Forces to all military deployments.
To make a statement, and then I would make my statement, and then finally the Permanent Secretary would make her statement. Take note of the adjustment, please. Thank you.
With that, it is my singular honor and privilege to request that we commence with opening prayers.
This is not a sacred and solemn occasion, but rather this is a joyous moment. On the basis of that, let's not restrict ourselves from taking water and drinking. Because, when it's very stressful as an occasion, you don't think about drinking. I want to start by drinking my first bottle, at least to open the floor. In media, you will have your own bottles once we are done. On a more serious note, the Honorable Governor of the Central Bank of the Gambia, the Right Honorable Boasedi, the Permanent Secretary, Minister of Defense, Madam Rohi Bite Dabo, the Deputy Governor of the Central Bank of the Gambia, the Deputy Chief of Defense Staff, the Gambia Armed Forces, Major Mamat Ocham, the advisor to the governor, distinguished members of the governor's delegation here present, principal staff officers of both the defense headquarters and the joint services headquarters respectively, senior officers of the two headquarters here present, distinguished members of the press, both the print and electronics, and allow me to say all other protocols duly and respectfully observed. It is a distinct pleasure and great honor to have in our midst this morning distinguished individuals headed by the governor of the Central Bank, and of course his diligent staff on a visit to the headquarters of the Gambia Armed Forces. Indeed, it's a very significant occasion, given what the purpose of the visit entails. Governor, allow me to say you're most welcome to my headquarters. It's a great pride and delight to have your very self and members of your distinguished delegates to visit this headquarters, more so on a very important mission. A mission that will define the path of the armed forces in the context of alleviating the living and working conditions of serving members of the military. It is against this backdrop I want to heartily welcome your very self and members of your delegation to this headquarters. Without much ado, once again, you're most welcome to my headquarters. Thank you so much, Governor.
Thank you.
That was the Chief of Defense Staff.
Such as food security and self-sufficiency. The Memorandum of Agreement between the Central Bank and the Gambia Armed Forces signifies a strong partnership that extends beyond financial support. The commitment from the Central Bank of the Gambia to enhance Gambia Armed Forces infrastructure is a testament to the collaborative spirit aimed at improving both security and economic stability of our nation. While Central Bank support infrastructural development, I want to encourage the Gambia Armed Forces to strengthen the maintenance of these facilities. This is a mutual commitment to ensure the long-term sustainability and functionality of these facilities. As we move forward with this agreement and other collaborative efforts, it is our hope that it will serve as a shining example of how public institutions can work together in pursuit of national development. In the spirit of public service, let us continue to work together diligently to fulfill the terms of the Memorandum of Agreement and to achieve our intended objectives of a safer, more prosperous Gambia. I thank you, General, your officers and men for the partnership and collaboration. Thank you for attending.
That was Governor Wasi.
Seen my troops on the occasion of a passing out parade, and suddenly there was no light. And I quickly said to myself, I've always maintained I would prefer to use my military voice. From experience, my military voice had never failed me. That's the truth. Because I recall when I go on my usual tours, I can talk for 8 hours. Just one standing, I can talk for 3 hours. I remember somebody said to me, what is the secret? The secret is very simple. You must have passion and determination for what you do. That's the secret. On last week Friday, in the midst of the presentation, all of a sudden there was no light. And I said to them, I prove you people wrong. The microphone, perhaps out of unusual occurrences, could fail me. But my voice will never fail. On a more serious note, Honorable Governor of the Central Bank, Mr. Buaseri, the Permanent Secretary, Minister of Defense, Madam Rohibiti Dabo, the Deputy Governor of the Central Bank of the Gambia, the Deputy Chief of Defense Staff, the Gambia Armed Forces, Major General Ahmad Ochan, distinguished delegates from the Central Bank here present, principal staff officers here present from both the Defense Headquarters and, of course, the Joint Services Headquarters, senior officers of these two headquarters here present, and distinguished members of the press. Good morning to all of you and Juma Mubarak. Good morning. Allow me once again, Governor, to reiterate how delighted and how thrilled we are to have this good congregation from the Central Bank of the Gambia. The visit is well intended in the context of the importance we attach to this very important gathering. As it was alluded to by previous speakers, precisely last year in the month of June, His Excellency, given the importance that he attaches to the living and working conditions of serving members of both the armed and security services, he deemed it fitting and proper to make a clarion call to government entities, parastatals, and other important vital partners to see how they can step in, perhaps to complement existing efforts undertaken by the government to look into the living and working conditions of serving members of both the armed and security services. In the context of these clarion call, many institutions, including the Central Bank, came forth to engage the delegation comprising of the Gambia Armed Forces, the Minister of Defense, and of course, Office of the President, and in which case they made some commitment in terms of pledges. Today is a culmination of one of those pledges made by one of the fine institutions. I'm talking of the Central Bank of the Gambia, the Bankers' Bank. If I may put it into contextual terms, the governor said rightly, they have a corporate responsibility. And extending that hand of fellowship to the Gambia Armed Forces is one indication of those corporate responsibilities. But again, others equally have a corporate responsibility. But he said one thing, and I want to quote from him. Business will strive. People can go about undertaking what they call meaningful ventures, which ultimately generate income for themselves and their institutions, because there is the semblance of peace and security in a given country. Given the importance of that, they see it as a mandatory obligation to contribute in no small terms towards fulfilling the aspirations of Gambians in the context of alleviating the living and working conditions of serving members of both the armed and security services. That's very commendable. Governor, we want to say with pleasure and thank you most profoundly. More so, looking at it, coming with a Memorandum of Agreement that will shape the future relationship between these two fine institutions, i.e., the Central Bank of the Gambia and the Gambia Armed Forces. We are open to such Memorandum of Understanding, because basically it denotes your fine institution equally wants to complement the good efforts of the government in alleviating the living and working condition of serving members of the armed and security services. That's quite commendable. More so, I recall vividly, when the Central Bank made that pledge, I was amazed and I was really touched. It did not stop there. We've been having consultative discussions, sending individuals to come and see me and my office, and to determine the path forward, the pathway forward. And in the process, they've traveled wide and near to see the deployments that we have across the country, so that they can have a proper feel of what it takes to intervene. To me, I consider that to be a true assessment of the situations on the ground. And basically, they were better informed, having gone through the country and having interacted with the Arabic soldiers. And of course, they had a feel of what is involved or what is at stake. On the basis of that, they've been able to identify what I call quick fix solutions to some of the areas. Of course, that's phase one. I want to believe there's going to be phase two, and there could be phase three as well. This is phase one. And perhaps the Memorandum of Agreement will then outline what phase two is going to look like and what phase three is going to look like. We're open to those agreements, I must say, Mr. Governor. But again, that's a true and genuine friendship, done or born out of the desire to work towards alleviating the living and working conditions of the Arabic soldiers. Allow me to emphasize that one of our constitutional mandates, we've been assigned by you, the Gambians, to say you protect and defend the territorial integrity and sovereignty of this country against aggression. By implications, we must be prepared to deploy as and when we are called to do so. That explains why we deploy in remote areas where, under normal circumstances, Arabic Gambians will find it difficult to go there. That's a pledge we took, And we would, irrespective of the circumstances, uphold those trusts, even to the disadvantage of us, in terms of lack of basic amenities. We will continue to do that. The aim ultimately is to make sure that you live your dreams in peace and harmony. If we pledge to say we will defend and protect the territorial integrity of this country against aggression, it implicitly means we, the armed forces, we are the custodians and vanguard of the security of this country. Under thin and thick, we will always stand put to do that. And we've amply demonstrated that in many occasions. And we would continue to do that. You entrusted that in our care, and we will uphold it to the best of our ability. Making such a contribution towards alleviating the living and working conditions of the armed forces, with a calculated response from a clarion call from His Excellency the President and the Commander-in-Chief, is indeed commendable. Allow me to give you my firm promise. The donated items or the pledge that you promised to do would definitely be put to good use. I can assure you that. And most importantly also, others had made pledges. Allow me to use this occasion to perhaps give them what I call a gentle reminder. It's a willingness, a gentle reminder. Perhaps we've not knocked on their doors, or perhaps they will serve as also a gentle reminder to some of them. If they could perhaps emulate the fine example of the Central Bank of the Gambia. Making those contributions will not go in vain. Again, let me emphasize, we can take meaningful ventures in any given circumstances if there is peace and security in any country. Remember, peace, security, and sustainable development are interlinked. You cannot talk of any meaningful development in any given circumstances, in any given country, in the absence of peace and security. So, investing on the armed security services is not out of context. On the basis of that, allow me once again to say we treasure and thank you most profoundly. So, coming up with such a magnificent gift to the serving members of the armed forces. That's quite commendable. You've positively responded to the clarion call of His Excellency the President. And the co-president did so with a conscious note that government in every setting cannot do it by themselves alone. No government can do it by themselves alone. At some stage, they have to lean on others to complement the good efforts of any given government. So coming in to make those contributions is not out of context, but rather it might hope that we want to say once again, we acknowledge and thank the Central Bank most profoundly for such an exceptional gesture towards the living and working condition of serving members of the armed forces. Today is Juma. I want to believe it's not the presence to give it. On the basis of that, allow me once again, Governor, on behalf of the Minister of Defense, and by extension, the entire membership of the Gambian forces, we want to thank you most profoundly, and through you, to thank these fine delegates, and those who could not perhaps be part of this meeting, to say we treasure the relationship. And we want to thank you once again for having found time to come all the way. Others will say, perhaps, let me delegate a few hands to come and be with us. But you took the pain. And not only coming alone, you decided to bring your deputy governor and others who matters to be part of this fine delegation, to come to extend that hand of fellowship to the armed forces. it is well treasured. And we want to thank yourself, and through you thank the government, the entire membership for such a philanthropic gesture. And by extension also the board of directors, we want to thank them. Because usually always, you may have a very laudable ideas, but again you have to lean on the board of directors as well to see whether they could bless it. Tell them we treasure them blessing this, and tell them we look for phase 2, phase 3, and phase 4 as well. And I thank you very much.
Assalamu alaikum. Good morning to everyone here. We're still in the morning. It's not easy to be the last speaker, honestly, especially if you have senior speak before you. I just want to register our delight as a ministry to be part of this program today, or this ceremony. And on behalf of the Minister of Defense, I want to express our sincere appreciation and gratitude to the Central Bank for answering to the clarion call that was made by the President sometime last year. Defense is not cheap. And when we talk about security sector reform, defense is of importance. When we talk about defense, we talk about safeguarding our territorial integrity. We talked about safeguarding our sovereignty, which makes us a country. Because without that, we cannot call ourselves a country. So the President, being the Commander-in-Chief, deemed it necessary to call on the private sector and the public sector to support government in taking care of the Gambia Armed Forces. Because the Gambia Armed Forces is here to serve every one of us, including the private sector and the public sector. So anything that we do for them, we're doing it for ourselves. Because without peace, we cannot do anything. And the governor made mention of that. So peace is a prerequisite for development. The same thing applies to security. If you're not secure, if you have a criminal in front of your gate threatening to kill you or to hurt you, you will not have time to go out to go to work. You will not have time to go out to buy food. So what would you do? Because you cannot get out to fight him. Eventually you turn out to your security agencies. And that is why any support we can get from the private sector and the public sector to complement government is highly welcome. We cannot do it alone because it's very, very expensive to maintain a security force on armed forces. So we really appreciate your coming in, your stepping in as your social corporate responsibility to assist the military. And I hope and pray that other private sectors, individuals, we have individuals that can do it, can also, emulate and then step in to support our military. The intervention made today, be it private or public, within the framework of your corporate social responsibility, is necessary to support such an important national endeavor. The support you have provided will significantly help to mitigate some of our challenges we have as a military. I say we because I'm part of them now. In terms of water supply, in terms of fencing our camps in the rural end, as well as rehabilitating some of our facilities. Participating in agriculture is part of our responsibility. It's part of our mandate. We can participate in productive national development. Why not have our own farm as military? We can feed ourselves. That will cut down the cost. And that would save government some money because the money that we're using to feed the army can be redirected to other areas of development. So if we have the opportunity to have at least a farm that we can pilot, right? And then see whether we can feed ourselves as the military. Because feeding is the most expensive part of our budget. So our involvement in agriculture would not deprive the private sector from selling their products. Be rest assured of that. We are going to produce to feed ourselves. In case there is access, then we can start thinking of exporting. Why not? We can be exporters of rice. We have fertile land in the Gambia. And we're not even praying or thinking of going to war right now. That's out of our thinking for now. So it's important for us to participate in national development, and we can do it. So I'm very glad that Central Bank is thinking in that direction to support us, at least to pilot an agricultural project for the military. On this note, I just want to thank the Deputy Governor, Mr. Sire Jallo, and your advisor and delegate, and my principal officers of the military, my honorable and able CDS and BCDS, the media, that's where I should have started anyway, so but I'm ending with it. The media houses here present, and all other protocols respectfully observed. I thank all of you for witnessing this program today, and I can assure you that this donation would take us a long, long way. And it's really appreciated to the bottom of our hearts, and I know the President himself would be really glad to hear that Central Bank is stepping in, because Central Bank has a big role to play as any other institution. So we'll put it into good use, and it's well appreciated, and we hope and pray that others would emulate. On that note, I want to thank you all for taking time off. Today is Friday, is a short day, to be here with us. Thank you very much. And